Welcome to TippCast by the Nenagh Guardian. Hello and welcome to TippCast. Myself, Shane Stapleton, as ever with the Nenagh Guardian's Shane Brophy and George Hannigan, former Tipperary footballer also, who's a coach with Tommy Larkin's hurling club up in Galway at the moment. How are you doing, man?
Yeah, all good, Shane.
Good stuff. We'll just start off with we'll come to the football absolutely after that victory over Wicklow last weekend. But just to start off with the hurlers at the weekend, Shane, were you impressed with Tipperary's 219 to 20 point win over Galway after two draws against Limerick and Cork? It was nice to get a win on the board.
It was, yeah, but I was impressed with how they went around it. I thought we were deserving winners. I don't think that the scoreboard was, maybe towards the end it was a more accurate reflection, but I definitely thought there was more positives than negatives. I thought the first half was probably the most complete performance we've seen since 2019. Very, very, very fluid. I thought they knew what they wanted to do, and it was great to see a bit more sharpness in their play. I thought maybe they're doing between games at the moment. You don't know whether who's doing a heavy week or who's doing a light week in terms of training. I did think maybe the Cork game we looked a bit heavy-legged, but I thought we looked a lot fresher last weekend, and I think it showed in our play. We were a lot alert to what we were doing and the use of the ball, and look, 2-19. The 15 wides, but I've no doubt we'll sharpen up on that again. But I definitely think that the success of the three games so far has been the quality of our defence. Like, you're talking about two 20-point score lines and 2-16 conceded. Like, in modern hurling, that's very, very low. Like, and I think Liam Sheedy would have to be very, very happy with what he's seen out of his defence. We're definitely an awful lot more secure. And I know the full-back position where George would play a lot with his club and with the Tip intermediates. I think Pádraig Maher really is seeming to. It's been interesting that they've settled. Looks like they're settling on Pádraig for full-back at this stage of his career.
George, what did you make of that performance?
Yeah, I thought it was a very good performance. In fairness, they were well deserving of the victory, and I guess a small worry for a lot of people would have been the lack of a goal threat in the first two games, but they definitely rightified at the weekend, and anytime the ball went up in the attack, they looked a lot more dangerous than the Galway six anyway, that's for sure. But I'm sure Liam will be happy that they kind of get those two goals, and they also had a lot more chances to go along with it. But you can definitely see a kind of a style developing with the Tipperary team and what they're trying to achieve this year, and I'd say they're building nicely, and I'd say the management team are happy with the position they're in, this many weeks in. And I guess a lot of teams are picking up injuries as well, and to major players, and Tip seems to be handling that well. Whatever they're doing on the S&C side of things, that's probably the most important thing when the championship for teams is. It's one thing having a game plan and having things going well, but if you get a couple of big names injured, a lot of things that you've put in place and plans that you might be working on are gone out the window. So, like, of all the managers of the teams in the league, in the hurling league, I'd say the Tipperary management team are one of the happiest with the position they're in after the weekend anyway.
Shane, I'm sure most keenly felt in your own club is those injuries that George spoke about there. Bonner Maher is going to be out for the season with an Achilles injury, and I'd imagine that puts his club campaign under threat as well. And Brian Hogan was supposed to start in the goals, but he got a little blow, so instead Barry Hogan was allowed in for his third game in a row, and he hasn't really put a foot wrong.
No, it was a rough morning, all right, when the word came through that not only Bonner is gone for the year, but Brian wouldn't be able to get a run out against Galway, and I suppose particularly like he's under pressure now, and I suppose Barry's got 3 starts. You probably think that Brian will probably get the last 2 games, like that he was due to get the game against Galway, that he probably will get the game, but like there's no doubt Barry has put his hands up for serious consideration. Hasn't had an awful lot to do, in fairness to him. He had one sharp save to make against Galway from Kevin Cooney. Ball from our angle, the ball looked to be going wide, but he wasn't to know that. He was alert and turned it around the post. But it's for Bonner personally, like, it's a bitter blow. Like 2 serious injuries in 24 months. It's gut wrenching for the guy. But look, knowing him, like, and he'll probably hear 1 or 2 supporters saying that's the end for him. I think he'll use that as motivation, and to get back this time next year. Like it'll be touching whether he'll get back on the club campaign. I suppose that hopefully that Laura will get deep into the Seamus Reen Cup and maybe give himself a chance. But like for my personal sense, it's awful. Like, and I suppose as Liam Sheedy spoke about him after, like he's nearly the spiritual leader of that group. Like he leads the sprints, he's the fittest guy there. Like he just sets the tone for everyone else. And but look, Tipperary know how to recover from being without him. Again, 2019 they bounced back and won the All Ireland. So like hopefully. Maybe if there's an omen that will happen again, like so it's but look, it's going to create an opportunity for somebody in the half forward line to put their hand up there, and I suppose that was another positive at the weekend was the impact of our subs bench. On Niall O'Mara was very good off the bench, scored a point, and he set up two more. Brendan Maher was very good, and Michael Breen then and reviewing the match again on the second time around last night, I thought. If Michael Breen can do this every time he's out there, particularly in a half forward, where he caught two high balls, turned from both and stuck him over the bar, like I suppose it's the frustrating thing with Michael. We know he can do that. It's just that belief that every day he goes out, that can we get him to do that relatively? Can we get him to be very consistent in doing what we know he's able to do? So. Interesting to see what the manager do with Michael going. I know they've looked at him in midfield and stuff, but maybe he could be an option at wing forward now.
George, a player like Bonner getting injured during the middle of a championship, I'm sure, like with your experience playing with Tipperary over the years, there's been situations where big name players, maybe even yourself, got injured and missed out a portion of the season. How can a player like Bonner make an impact as a leader? I suppose maybe he did it in 2019, but can a player make that sort of an impact even when they're not playing?
Yeah, it's hard to know, Shane. I guess on the mindset of the player, obviously Bonner is going to be devastated by the injuries, but an awful effort in to get back to where he has been, and like as Shane said. Just to qualify that, like, I have no doubt the Bonner will be back if any man can do it and come back from a serious injury a second time, it's him. He's a warrior of Tipperary and will. I'm sure Bonner will be hanging around training. He'll be there today as a championship, and Liam referenced what an inspiration he's been to the team since 2010 and over the last number of years. And I'm sure it won't be the last time that Liam references Bonner. In the next few months as the boys progress in the championship, but he is a serious loss because he's a unique type of player, and he's something that we don't have, and something that a lot of teams don't have. But I wish him all the best, and hopefully the surgery went well, and hopefully he gets back to his best. And
now that you're involved with Tommy Larkins in Galway, do you have a sort of a fresh appreciation for the rivalry? Do you get it in the ear about being a Tipperary man when you're involved with Tommy Larkins?
A small bit here and there. I guess by the time I was down there last year as well, here and there. I tried to avoid it as best I can anyway. I did where I had the tip crest unknown to myself on me there. Last Sunday morning at train, it was pointed out to me, but it definitely wasn't intentional anyway. But just the way it happened. And
what's it like being involved with Tommy Larkins? I believe Dara Eakin was involved with them previously.
Dara was in there a couple of years before me. Even could have been even the year before me. And the boys really enjoyed Dara, and I think they got to a quarter final that year. They were unlucky to lose out to Thomas's, and I've been kind of. He'd be chatting to Dara, and it's going. And I suppose last year was a bit all over the shop as far as structure and planning is concerned. Kind of just going from week to week at times. And this year it's been enjoyable to get back out on the pitch and work on a few things. And at least I suppose everyone has a bit of a plan now, and we know what way we're going. All club players, everyone can plan their year and. Give a bit of structure to things, so it's just good to get going and get started.
Last year, Shane, we probably didn't see the best of the two McGraths, Noel and John, but Noel having been pushed back up to centre forward now, he looks like he's in rude health altogether. We always knew he was a brilliant forward, but after 2019 we thought midfield might be his home forevermore. But do you expect him to stay in centre forward now? Because the 2 goals, he was involved in both of them, setting up one for Jason Ford and Ford returning the favour for the other. Or Bubbles, was it actually?
I just think Wade. It was McGrath for Ford, and Ford returned the favour. So no, I definitely think I don't see him going back to midfield. Maybe he will probably drift back there at times from centre forward, but I just think that the way modern game is going, I think you need more legs in the middle of the field. It's not the same even for 2 years ago when we had him in that creative role back deep down the field. I don't know if maybe as the year goes on, maybe certain games you probably could do that. Like, it's interesting to see what Galway did with Joe Canning last weekend. They had him playing that deep creative role, and look, he did send in a couple of quality games, but then are you missing out at something in the half forward line when he's not up there? Because it's probably a shortfall of where Galway were last weekend. They didn't really get an awful lot of scores from play, apart from Brian Concannon. It's probably their Joseph Cooney were well. So it's good to see Noel being fresh. Like, he scored 1-2 from play, and like, his radar surprisingly was off. Like, he also had 3 wides, probably from positions he would probably feel he should have scored if. He could have been man of the match by the time that the game was over as well. But like, he influenced the game very, very well. And go back, he looks like a guy that knows he's under a bit of pressure. No, I think not from maybe a challenger, but from himself. He knows it's just not flowing at the moment. And like, I'd argue that probably the first name on the team sheet for the Westmeath game needs to be John McGrath, just to maybe get back a couple of, maybe get 3 or 4 5 points of, just to get it flowing again. Like, he did give a lovely flick pass out for one of Bubbles' points there. I think the second one just before half time, because he has the flicks there, and it's just, I think he knows himself last year didn't run. You just know yourself is not flowing for him. I suppose maybe it was interesting that he was taken off. I don't think it was anything injury related. I just feel that maybe the manager probably felt maybe he was doing more harm than good for his own personal confidence out there. But I have no doubt once he gets a couple of positive experiences under.
And George, just looking at the team and how they've performed after 3 games without Seamus Callan, he's going to be back for the Westmeath game, all going well. Like, are you impressed that Tipperary are in this position without the talisman being there?
There's loads of guys around them that are capable of racking up big scores, and I wouldn't say I'm surprised by any means. What I am kind of happy with, it's looking a bit more settled than I thought it would. Like, when you look at the backs especially, there's a nice look about it, and even looking at Pádraig Maher's name at number 3, it kind of back to it, done well and outstanding stuff at the moment. And then you've got Barry Heffernan. Then he's vital in the backs, because it depends on the opposition you come up against. If you're playing with a team with a 2-man full forward line, you end up with Barry has the versatility to go out the field, and then if a team plays with 3 up top, he slots back in corner again. So like, he's a really important player in defence. But no, it's taken a nice shape, and there's a lot of lads. There's a couple of guys that you're waiting for to get firing yet, like John. But I've no doubt come championship, like, John's a class player, and once. But maybe there's probably 11, 12 positions there to pick themselves at this stage, and you're looking for the 3 or 4 more to add to it.
Shane, we talked last week about Paddy Cadell and Robert Byrne getting their chances, and they both got a nice bit of this game. Paddy Cadell, for my money, ran the game in the first 20 minutes, and Robert Byrne did himself no harm either. Got through the game well, certainly not exposed, and probably a performance he can build on. So do you get the sense now that Liam Sheedy is putting more trust in the youth?
I think so. I think he's always been a fan of Paddy Cadell. I suppose the way things worked out last year, I suppose, like, Paddy had a very, very good first 20 minutes against Cork, I think, in Páirc Uí Chaoimh. I have no doubt he's definitely an option there. Like, I think we're well stocked actually between 2 and 9. Like you mentioned, Paddy and Alan Flynn. Like they can both play in the half back line as well. Alan could probably do a job in the corner as well. So I think there's one utility from in that sort of engine room sort of an area between the half back line and midfield where guys can sort of move in and out if they could do a man job and maybe a player an opposition player moves from half forward like out to the midfield, that they might decide, okay, we'll let his man marker follow him out and we'll stick somebody else maybe in at 5, 6 or 7. So I definitely think in terms of that, like, we're definitely well stocked in terms of options. Like, you think you have Brian McGrath, who was very, very good in the first 2 matches. He'll be there. Like, Brendan, where are they going to play Brendan? Like, you have to think come the 4th of July in the Munster semi-final that Brendan Maher is going to be starting. So, like, where's he going to slot in? Personally, I'd be more comfortable with Brendan maybe in a half-back role rather than midfield at this stage of his career, just to save his legs and just pace his way through the match. Whereas you probably, if you're a half-back, you probably won't be doing as much running as he would be doing at the middle of the field.
George, one of the things that keeps coming up is a couple of the hurlers on the Tipperary team and the football influence that they might have. So Seamus Kennedy's playing centre back there at the moment, and something I always notice with him is how composed he is on the ball. And it looks to me, in football, obviously possession is king and you don't ever lash the ball away unless you absolutely have to. The same with Cadell. Like, as a guy who's played a lot of football and hurling, do you think that the football has a big influence on how much you look after the ball when you're hurling?
Yeah, huge. Like there is a lot of, like, even when you're training, coaching a team, like a lot of the drills and the small side of games and so on that coaches are using at inter-county level, a lot of them are kind of, they may have originated as football games or football drills, and then you adapt them to suit hurling. So there has been a lot of, I guess, football has evolved a lot over the last few years from one type, and hurling probably has had as many evolutions, shall we say. Obviously Cork changed things a lot with the 2 O'Connors and their running game, but and now you kind of have Connacht and Limerick with it. I think there's definitely a major football influence behind teams and the way, like when Donegal won the Football All-Ireland years ago, every club team up and down the country and every club manager is taking things from that, and they're trying to copy aspects of it. And it's the same thing with the All-Ireland hurling winners each year. Everyone's kind of looking at Limerick and what are they doing what are they doing that we can take little bits from. So I think the football and his reputation for being a good coach, so you definitely see it in so orientated, like.
Shane, the likes of Dylan Quirk now, he's had a couple of chances. It hasn't really happened for him just yet, but you expect it probably will in the long term. Do you think that he will get another start against Westmeath, or it'll be a case of maybe use him off the bench and hopefully when it opens up he can make an impact and that might build his confidence?
From the first 3 games is that while we probably blooded the likes of Robert Byrne and Brian McGrath and Brian O'Mara, unfortunately with the injury in defence, and Barry Hogan, probably we haven't found a new person up in the forwards yet. Like Dylan Quirk he's got a game time in the 3 games. I suppose disappointing against Galway. Like, he really didn't influence the game at all, and there's just no surprise that he was taken off. Look, that can happen. Look, sometimes the ball you can go one way and the ball will just go the other, and you just hope for more. Like, I was disappointed with Jake Morris when he came on. Look, he's young too. Like, he's only 21, 22 years of age. Like, he's going to mature into a fine player, but I just thought he was just waiting for things to happen. I know there was one ball came in between himself and Daithí Burke the last day, and he was sort of hoping that Daithí would make the mistake and he'd drift in behind and get maybe a shot on goal. But look, so you'd just like to see Jake maybe just a bit more when the ball is coming in, just contest it a little bit more. But like, that will come. Like, we all know it took Shamie Cannon long to settle into being it's nearly 26, 27 when the penalty dropped for Shamie at senior inter-county level. So I no doubt it'll work for Jake. I think the Westmeath game is a big up to maybe show what they're made of. Look, it mightn't be a proper audition, and there's no disrespect to Westmeath, but look, if an opportunity comes, you've really got to take it, and maybe tell Liam, look, come the Waterford game in Walsh Park, that look, if that's the final trial for the likes of me, look, I'm there, and look, I think that Waterford game I'm surprised if Liam is not thinking for that Waterford game. I need to know, maybe he's going to be putting out 13, if not 14, of the championship team down there, because I don't think there's any risk. Just on the off chance that Tipperary will be playing Waterford in that Munster semi-final in July 4th. If you go down to Walsh Park with your championship team and win, great, you're well set up for Waterford. You're doing for championship.
George, how much do you read into the league at the moment? You know, it's obviously going at breakneck speed, and everyone's had limited preparation coming into this. So do we read much into Tipperary beating Galway? Do we read much into Galway beating Limerick?
I don't think so. You're just looking for small little moments and matches and different things that maybe coaches might be working on, but you can't read a whole pile into it, especially when Limerick are the standard bearers and they have never had, they have been chopping and changing and maybe haven't had a settled 15 on the field. So you're probably based a lot of capable of doing so. Like, they haven't had a Hegarty aspect of the game as Morrissey. I don't think they've been on the field at the same time together. So. But it is heating up nicely, and as Shane alluded to, that last round, I don't think managers are they're going to have to show their hand. I guess put things that they've been practicing and training into try test them out in that league game. And I'm not sure we're going to be too worried about showing their hand. Obviously, Waterford have to play Clare in the first round as well, and they'd be. They wouldn't be wise to be taking their eye off the ball with regard to getting over Clare in the first round either. So no, I think they'll definitely be motoring. That last league game, you'll probably be looking for a lot of signs out of that last league game, and it's not like other years where you've had this massive break between league and championship, and teams can lose form. Probably don't have time to lose form either. So it's just about building momentum incrementally, and by that last weekend we'll have a fair idea where lads are lining out and what sort of form teams are in. You might see a truer form line between league, that last round of league and championship, and first round and championship than we've had in other years.
And Shane, just to take up that same point, just before we move on to the football, what do you think? Do you count or do you look at league form and think too much of it?
I think this year I think it means more, because I think you want to be carrying some bit of positive momentum into the championship. If you go through it, I think Tipperary will be happy with what they've got. They're unbeaten, drawing 2 draws and a win. Can't say any more than that. I think it all depends on what certain counties want. I definitely think Limerick. I don't think another league means Anton and Limerick this year. I think it's back to back or nothing. And I don't think we've seen Limerick really hit the levels of intensity we know they can. We haven't seen their first 15. And again, as I mentioned last week, I don't think the depth of their panel is as strong as we thought it was. They haven't really found anyone new. Then you could question maybe their discipline. Jeremy Burns, you've had Kyle Hayes, and you've had Seamus Callaghan all sent off in the last few weeks. And the red cards are all avoidable, really. They're involved in things they shouldn't have. They lost the head, that. I think that's definitely something John Kiley's going to have to rectify. I was very impressed with Waterford last week. I actually think the depth of the Waterford maybe options is maybe stronger than a lot of counties. They've lost Stephen O'Keefe, they've lost Ty de Burka, they've lost the 2 Mahanys, and Michael Beavens and Liam Cahill just seem to be finding new players all over the place. And they're big, strong guys. Austin Gleeson seems to be mature, and he really seems to have bought into what Liam Cahill is wanting. So I think the longer the years goes on, I thought maybe Watford might suffer from second season syndrome, but I think they're very, very dangerous, and I think Cork are very, very dangerous too, because if they get that running game going in the height of summer and the ball hopping and the dry ground, I think it'll be very, very hard to stop them in Croke Park or Cork Keeve or Thurles, wherever the matches are going to be played. So look, I just think it all depends on what each manager is looking for out of the league. But I definitely think Tip, Cork, and Waterford, to a certain extent, are probably the happiest so far. Probably Galway as well. I don't think Galway would lose too much sleep over losing that last weekend.
And we'll move on to the football now, because we'll obviously talk plenty more hurling next week, previewing that game against Westmeath. But George, 2-12 to 1-12 win over Wicklow sort of undoes some of the damage that happened in week 1 against Limerick. You know, obviously a good start for David Power's team, but eventually the treaty took over. It all means that going into the final round of Division 3 South fixtures, that any of Offaly, Limerick, Tip and Wicklow are still in with a chance of promotion or relegation. But what were your thoughts on Tipperary's win over Wicklow at Semple Stadium?
It's kind of a Jekyll and Hyde performance. We did some really, really poor things, and then some really, really brilliant things. There was no kind of consistency to the performance. That's what I found anyway. It was just we were playing in patches. You were kind of we're putting some good moves together for 3 or 4 minutes, and then maybe we might do something ridiculous and give away possession or hand an easy score. But like overall, I think they're just happy to get the win, get another week's training under the belts, and I guess it's in their own hands heading into the off by 3 points to be sure of coming in the top 2. Shane might correct me on that. And then I think if it's a 2-point win for Tipperary, they're relying on Limerick to only win by 2 points as well, or 1 point, something like that. So even watching the game, you be a small bit frustrated now for David Power, because the score difference was going to be so important going into the last game, and just to concede a penalty in the fashion that we did will be frustrating for the management and players.
Yeah, after the game, David said of referee Seamus Mulvihill, he said that under the new syndical foul rules, that wasn't an offence. It shouldn't have been a penalty. And he said, I thought the referee at times, you didn't know what decision he was going to be making. I know he's a ladies football referee as well. I think he was getting crossed over with rules at times. It's a contact sport. From what I'm hearing from the stats lad, that wasn't a penalty because we had defensive cover. That 3 points could be huge at the end of next weekend, Shane. So he's obviously pretty frustrated with that.
Yeah, no, I thought I suppose when you do these interviews straight after a game, I suppose you're probably getting the manager at his most raw. Like I thought, looking back on the video of the game, I don't think we can have any qualms about that penalty. Like Jimmy Feehan, it was a deliberate pull down, was outside the square. Look, I know there was a defender coming across, but there was probably a fair player was going in a fair shot and position. I think it fitted the parameter. Since I suppose we cut the deficit from 6-3 at that stage, but look, it was, as George said, it was a goal. It was avoidable. Look, we lost cheap possession out the field, and Wicklow made us pay. But like overall, look, it was. I suppose you could probably see a bit of pressure in the performance. We needed to win. We got there for a finish. We mixed the good with the bad. Like I just thought, like when we attack and we have enough possession, and we go at teams, like we're very, very threatening. And I know it was something I said in my analysis of the match this week. I just think we're a better team when when we're nearly all out attack. I know you have to have some structure going back the field, but when we play off the cuff and we're attacking at will, I just think it suits us and the players we have. Maybe it's probably naive of me to think we can go that way, particularly when you're without your starting half backs of last year, Kevin Fahey, Bill Maher and Robbie Kyle. You know, Robbie's gone for the year, and it doesn't sound like Bill will be back for this weekend either. But I just think with the assets we have going forward, like Conor Sweeney's able to score, you have like Stephen O'Brien is very, very good he's probably the most consistent player we have this year. He's scored 5 points in play between the 2 matches. Probably the best of Liam Boland is probably in an attacking sense too, and like there was a lot to like maybe from Philip Ryan too. He didn't see an awful lot of ball, but took that goal. Like it was there was no element of panic when you're 1-on-1. Sometimes you see an inside forward and a 1-on-1 for a keeper, they kind of nerve themselves. Well, look, he sidestepped the keeper and stuck in the net, but I'm sure he'd get better from that game as well. So look, I like there's going to be an element of pressure on Offaly too, like in this weekend too. Maybe like it's winner or bust for all the teams too. So I don't think Offaly can probably take the foot off the gas either. Maybe there might be an element of pressure on them being at home to get the result as well there. So look, you'd like to think maybe from the Wicklow performance we can find that little bit more.
George, what do you make of the addition of Philly Ryan this year? He's obviously a former Dublin panellist at St. Bridget's footballers, but without Philip Austin this year, and then obviously Robbie Kiley plays in a different position, but it's no harm to be able to bolster the team with someone with that experience.
Yeah, definitely. Didn't show us all his wares the weekend. He didn't get on the ball a whole pile, but when the opportunity did arise, he definitely took it with both hands. But yeah, listen, you see what Conor Cox did with Roscommon there. He basically carried him in a few games and over the last number of years. A great acquisition, you could say, for Roscommon, and you'd be hoping that Philip can contribute in the same manner. He probably hasn't had a whole pile of time to bed into the team. Everyone's probably pretty new to him, going down to Thurles to train, and even kind of learn to play with different guys and what to expect when certain guys are on the ball and so on. So that will take a bit of getting used to, and he might be a small bit short in time in that regard, but you can see that with the injuries we've had there, especially to Michael Quinlivan and the loss of Philip and so on, you're already down 2 forwards, and Casey's always been a point scoring threat and a goal scoring threat. So we could definitely do with all the forwards that are available to us anyway.
Yeah, and your thoughts on, like, I certainly haven't spoken to you since last year when Tipperary won that Munster title. Just to yourself, what did it mean watching on and seeing that happen last year?
Yeah, sure, it was incredible. Like, the only pity about it is you're sitting at home on the sofa and you're kind of celebrating. You're not quite sure what to do, But no, it was an incredible achievement for them, and over the years, it's definitely just reward for that, and it's fitting that guys like Conor and Philip and Brian get their hands in a Munster medal, and like that would mean the world to them. But they definitely deserved it. It was a super performance on the day, and even in the Mayo game, it was a good performance in patches, and unfortunately we just got sucker punched with those few goals. But you'd be hoping that we can kick on and get the win next weekend against Offaly, because correct me if I'm wrong, Shane, but like, if we stay in Division 3, does it have implications for our championship status next year? Is that still the case with Division 3 teams?
I think it's quite possibly, yeah. So like it would make it harder, all right. So like you want to be getting out of it as quick as you can. Like, you don't want to get stuck down there for what would be a third year in a row, like so, and like it's getting harder and harder, like. But look, I know I'd be interested to see. Like, you'd have to think, being a very, very your old ground, like Stephen's been very good, and I think Conal Kennedy has been probably the success story of the league. I thought as the championship went on last year, he got better and better, but he seems to have kicked on to a new level. I always thought he looked like a guy that just didn't believe enough in himself, but I just think he's like a new player there this year. He just seems to believe that he belongs at intercounty level now.
Yeah, he's really kicked on. Like, his pace is incredible for such a big man. It's just he's well able to time run, and from a standing start, once he takes off, he's been brilliant. He's probably the standout player over the league so far.
George, how realistic is it to be hoping to make the same impact in 2021 as Tipperary did in 2020? Like, we've talked about some of the injuries, and Kerry, if you're to base it on how they've looked against Dublin in how they came back the other day, and obviously in the way that they beat Galway so comprehensively last weekend.
Sorry, I didn't catch that, Shane.
Oh, sorry, I'll go again. George, like, how difficult is it going to be for Tipperary to follow up last year? There's obviously the injuries, and then we see just in Munster alone how good the likes of Kerry are looking this year. It's a tall order.
Oh yeah, huge. Like, I mean, if you want to follow it up, you're talking about winning the Munster title, and in order to do that, you're looking to get over the winners of Clare and Kerry, and we can see how well both those are doing at the moment. Repeat the dose this year. We're going to need. We can't afford any more injuries. We're going to need all hands on deck and get lads back fit, like Michael and Bill. I know Robbie's gone for the year, but like it will be really, really tough. Colin Reardon and Casey and Robbie from last year, and hopefully we don't add to that list in the meantime. But it is going to be really tough. But listen, the lads are Munster champions. They they're well deserving of it. They can take inspiration from that, and they definitely won't have any fear of playing Kerry or Clare in Munster semi-final, and we'll see what happens. But we definitely need. We can't afford any more injuries. We need everyone.
And just a final question, George, before we let you go: do you expect a good performance and a good result against Offaly?
Well, listen, it's kind of knockout stuff. We never really like going to Tullamore. It's especially when the wind, it can be tough to score into the town end goals at times. But Offaly seem to be going well. I did expect them to get over Limerick. They have a lot of classy. Haven't kicked on as much as they should have in the last few years, given the calibre of the player that they have. But I know we did it last year when we needed to do it. But to get a 3-point win over Offaly down in Tullamore, the hands of Conor Sweeney, we can't be kicking balls in, 40, 50-yard balls into the corner. We need to, even see the goal last weekend. It was Brian Fox that instigated a move. He beat a couple of tackles, takes on guys, carries the ball, and you need to give the ball to Sweeney in an area of 1 point. Tullamore next Saturday. So, if we play to our strengths, the fitness is building with each game. But it's still 3 games in a row now for teams, and that goes for both Offaly and Tip, of course. So it'll be interesting to see how the bodies will cope with that. But we're definitely going to need a greater impact off the bench anyway. Okay.
Well, look, thanks very much for joining us, George, and I'm sure we'll chat again soon.
No problem, lads. Thanks for having me. Yeah.
See you, George.
Thanks a million. Bye bye.
So Shane, just to move on from that, any final thoughts from yourself on the Tipperary footballers heading into the Offaly match this weekend?
Yeah, I think it's as big a game as I've had now in a long time. As I think this one, I think they're really going to, it could just ignite the rest of their year, because you have 2 weeks to get ready for a Division 2 for a promotion semi-final. And sure, look, we know against Tipperary, when in these one-off games, they know what's coming from Offaly. They played them in the league last year in Thurles. It was a very open game, so it probably should suit Tipperary as well. It might be an attacking sky. It could be very, very high score, and so hopefully we get the result. Hopefully we'll get the win of any sort. Because there's no guarantee Limerick will get the result they want up in Aughrim.
So now we'll move on to the Camogie, and Tipperary had a 2-16 to 11 point win over Waterford at the weekend. A fairly stunning first half performance. I think it was something like 2-11 to 3 points at half time. The goals came from Clodagh McIntyre and Emer McGrath, with Caught Devan top scoring with 12 points. How impressed were you with that performance?
Oh, you'd have to be very, very impressed. To bounce back from the Cork defeat. It looked like they took the positives from that Cork loss and brought them into that Waterford game, and they were 2-11 to 3 points up at half time. It was very, very good. So look, it has to be taken by the fact that Waterford came in cold. They were the idle team in round 1. So look, I'm sure having that match under their belt was a huge advantage for Tipperary. But look, they made it count, and it's great to see young players like Emer McGrath and Clodagh McIntyre score sheet with those goals. It was we need to find a couple of more forwards to go with Caught Devan. And I know I mentioned last week that maybe we're a bit overly reliant on Caught, but look, when you have a player of that calibre, I suppose you've got to try and feed her as much as you can. And look, when she's scoring 12 points out of 16, look, there's not many defenders, whether from Waterford or the big three of Kilkenny, Galway and Cork, will stop her. So it looks like Tipperary finals, and I'm sure they'd love to kick on and maybe get back to that league final that they unfortunately didn't get to play in last year because of COVID.
Yeah, and now we know the Tipperary are waiting to just see what happens between. I mean, it's highly unlikely that Waterford are going to get a result against Cork, isn't it?
Yeah, it probably is, but I think it's the fact that such a big win over Cork. Even if Waterford win, it's going to hurt. Even if Waterford got the big win over Cork, it's going to hurt Cork. He's brought the girls to a new level. I think they just hope that maybe Claudia Kirk and the injury she cried off late in the game is not too serious. Was like she's one of the leaders of the team, was captain for the last couple of years. Like they don't need to lose players of her experience from the defensive unit. So look, like they only conceded 11 points again, like which was very, very good. Like the 3-14 they conceded to Cork in the first game was sort of an outlier from what they were doing over the last few years. So conceding 11 points for against a Waterford team that had Bet Carton and Niamh Rockett, like that's impressive going.
It certainly is. Now we'll move on to the ladies' football finally. A 3-15 to 2-6 defeat to Cork. And I know Cork manager Effie Fitzgerald, he was saying afterwards that his side have plenty to work on ahead of their big fixture with Dublin this weekend. But it was a huge impact from the bench from his substitutes, Libby Coppinger and Katie Quirk. They came in and impacted the scoreboard. For Tipperary, what were your thoughts on that defeat?
Yeah, it just shows you the strength of Cork when you have three players of the calibre of Katie and Libby and Orla Farmer as well to bring on and turn the tide. Like Tipperary, they're only 2 points down, playing into the breeze. They scored two very good goals. The first one from Rhea Creedon was scrappy enough, but Roisin Daly took her goal very, very well. Anna Rose Kennedy was absolutely sat in the middle of the field. She was running up and down. Nobody settling in. Look, Cork just have that strength and depth at the moment. They were very, very strong. I suppose Tipperary maybe ran out of a bit of legs as well. And it's still overall, it's still a very, very young Tipperary team. And she herself was only coming back from having missed the last couple of years. She was back in the lineup. It's still a very, very young team to have there. So look, I'm sure for Declan Carr, he got to find an awful lot more about his players. Aisling Maloney, look, she missed an awful lot of the spring training because of the knee injury sustained last October. Look, it was another 60 minutes under her belt as well. But Emily Morrissey, a centre forward, did very, very well too. But look, it just shows you at the top level, for Tipperary to still be without Aisling McCarthy and Orla O'Dwyer, and hopefully as the championship comes, they'll be back and fit. And these games are just vital preparedness for Tipperary for championship. And look, it was always going to be a tough ask again in a group that had Cork in, and they've Dublin to come on Saturday week to get a result. I think a win under their belt. I think next Sunday's game against Waterford was always going to be the one they were going to be targeting to hopefully get the 2 points.
And it is a difficult task to try and bridge the gap between these top sides. I mean, Dublin have been so dominant in the past few seasons. Like even in the Camogie, as you've mentioned already, Tip got to the league final last year and couldn't play it, got to an All-Ireland semi-final. And it took a few years to get to that stage. Obviously, Tipperary had won All-Irelands in the past, but it had been a number of years before pushing the top sides. Same with the football as well. Does it feel like for Declan Carr, they probably have plenty of steps to go before they can really truly challenge these top teams?
It's a senior football. It's another level. I'd say we're our core eight, even for the likes of Aisling Maloney, who's the captain, she's only 22, 23 years of age. And again, on the team, so there's an awful lot of maturing and experience needed to be got into that team, and I'm sure Declan and his selectors that'll happen over time. The Dublin game, they'll only learn more and more by playing against the best. Waterford are traditionally a very, very strong senior team over the last 20-30 years. I suppose minimum requirement this year probably for Tipperary is to stay in Division 1 at the end of the league, and if they beat Waterford this weekend, they probably have a fair chance of staying up. And I think if after the end of this league the Tipperary are still a Division 1 team and had three solid performances against Dublin, Cork and Waterford, I think Declan Carr would be most pleased heading into the championship, where hopefully he has the Ashley McCarthy and Orlan O'Dwyer back, and like they're huge players to that senior. Have them against Cork last weekend, there's probably a fair chance we mightn't have won the game, but we probably would have been an awful lot closer. Or maybe that first half possession, of which Tipperary had a lot of, it probably hopefully would have been turned into more scores, and maybe we'd been in a positive position to turn things around in the second half.
Absolutely. So I think that kind of wraps it up for episode 4 of TippCast. Don't forget, you can see plenty more in the Nenagh Guardian newspaper, and we'll be back again next week. Thanks very much, Shane.
Good to see you, Shane. See you next week.
Welcome to TippCast by the Nenagh Guardian.